All right, so I'm on Brad Lander. He is one of the other major candidates, Lander for mayor. So the website is landerfornyc.com. And I'm going to do the same thing, right? We're going to click on the issues on the site. If you notice, these sites are all designed to look very similar. Have you noticed that? They kind of look the same. All the
Um,
sites that we looked at.
it's the colors, right?
The color and the style, yeah, the way it's laid out. You got the about section, your endorsement section, your issue section. I mean, I guess that's standard for campaigns, but it's kind of funny how they're in competition with each other, but they're all kind of making the same thing.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
All right, so I'm on issues, and he does seem to have a separate page for issues, Brad Lander. And let's see, is he leading with affordability? Because we saw Cuomo and Mamdani lead on affordability. It looks like if you go to his issues page, it's the second thing. He says safer first,
Yeah.
right? So he's got those
Safer, more
columns,
affordable, and better
better
run.
run, right? So that's his tagline: safer, more affordable, and better run. So he's breaking it up into these three categories. Safer first. Now that's interesting if you think about it from an ideological perspective. I know Lander is one of these candidates who has been known to be progressive, kind of flirting with the DSA, I guess, at times. But now that he's running for mayor, he's seen as trying to moderate his image a little bit. And I think he's maybe getting lost in this now because some people have found it hard to get a read on him. Where does he stand today as a candidate for mayor as compared to these other candidates? I think if you look at the moderate lane, Cuomo is kind of like the juggernaut there. If you look at the progressive lane, Mamdani is really taking up that space. So where does that leave some of these other guys, right? Some of these other
Right.
candidates. Lander, I think, has struggled with that. Interesting to see him define. Maybe it's a subtle thing, but he's defining himself in terms of safety before affordability. Now
Mm.
that might make him look more of a moderate, right? More to the right, even of someone like Cuomo, who's focusing on affordability. But that's just very high level because when you get into the details of it, Cuomo is talking about things like tax caps, which keep him in that moderate space.
Right. And I believe safety has been a big topic in New York over the past couple of
Sure,
years. So it,
sure.
you know, kind of makes sense. What's interesting to me, just as standing out, first of all, high level,
Yeah,
he
yeah,
does seem to have a lot of information on his policy, a lot of details. A lot of these go to different pages. So, he's not slouching on giving info on his platform.
right.
Um, in the safety category.
Mm-hmm.
One of the points is stand up to Donald Trump as part of the
As
safety
part of
platform.
safety. So let's click on that. That's interesting.
So that's kind of interesting to me. That's what stood out. I'm like, this is in the safety area.
Well, so if you click on it, it says, as Donald Trump and Elon Musk threaten our neighbors and our services, Brad will bring New Yorkers together and stand up for women, the LGBTQ community, workers, our immigrant neighbors, people of color, Jews, Muslims, or any other New Yorkers subjected to hate or attack. So
I
that's how
like that message.
that's how he's tying it to safety.
Right. And I like that message. And this is
It's
what,
more inclusive sounding.
to me, it's more inclusive
Yeah.
sounding versus what we just saw on Cuomo's, where it was anti-Semitism here.
Yeah.
Lander here is like, listen, all New Yorkers here, like everyone is, women, LGBTQ, Jews, Muslims, everybody. We want to
Right.
get rid of that hate in all forms. To me, this is I
It's
like
funny.
this.
That reminds me actually though of a speech that Andrew Cuomo gave when I was in Albany. He gave a speech right outside my office at the time, and I took video of it
Mm,
where he used some of that same rhetoric, and he actually was going at Trump back when Trump was running the first time, and he
mm,
was saying, "You don't know what makes us great. This is what makes us great." And he had that inclusive messaging. He was like, "Look at New York. It's everyone." He was like, "It's
right.
Christians." Jews, Muslims, all together, whites, Latinos, blacks, Asians, all
Sure.
together. And that was his messaging of inclusivity, right? Of diversity. He said, we don't demonize our differences. We celebrate our differences in New York. That's what makes us New York. That's what makes us a great place. And that's good messaging. You're not seeing, I guess, that message to that degree on Cuomo's current website, right? As
Right.
just not from the look that we just took at it. You're seeing
Right.
more of that really in Lander's rhetoric on his site.
Right. And in this safety section, it actually is addressed a couple of different ways. The stand up to Donald Trump. The next point is fight hate and harassment. And
Mm-hmm.
then another point, stand up for our immigrant neighbors.
Mhm.
So he's really going into that inclusive, diverse New Yorker point here.
He calls the Adams administration's limit policies cruel.
Mm,
It's funny, probably because I think I saw some of this on the other websites as well. They're criticizing the Adams administration because it seems like when these websites were made, they thought they were running against Eric Adams, and he's not even in
right.
the primary anymore. So he's kind of irrelevant at this point, even though he is still the incumbent mayor. So it is
Right. Yeah.
their
Yeah.
game to contrast what you would do differently from the current mayor. But it's just funny because I think they wrote
Yeah.
this thinking he was going to be their main opponent.
Yeah. Cuomo's your opponent now, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So
So do we see anything here specific that we can point out quickly and say, well, that's different from what we just saw on the other websites?
I think a lot of it seems to be hitting on the same points that like the only difference I see is this more inclusive message here. Lander's also talking about guaranteed childcare, housing issues, mental health care, public transit work. Um,
He is being more vague. I'm just clicking. Even when you click on read more on these, you're not getting the 25-page PDF or anything.
no, they're like 30
Yeah.
second video clips.
Right. And then you're getting a paragraph that's still vague. And honestly, this is the level of detail I would normally expect to see from a campaign. Although I feel
Mhm.
like the others that we saw kind of raised the bar. So now when you look at these, you're like, maybe they should have more at this point because what are you really getting? And especially from someone like him who needs to define himself more. We talked about how his brand kind of got lost in the mix in this race. So how do you combat that? You
Now
know what I mean?
there's a mix here actually.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, if you go to the stand up to Donald Trump, right? It's about there's like a one or two sentence paragraph description here. And then
Yeah.
there's a 33-second video from
Right.
Brad out in the street talking, which is a personal touch. I kind of like
Sure.
that. Then
Sure.
you click the plus sign, and there's Brad's record, and there's
I
another
see that. The
two
plus. Okay,
short paragraphs.
that's
I
bad
wouldn't have
design.
hid that. I
That's
wouldn't have
bad
hid
design.
that.
That's hard to find. It's Brad's
Right,
record. Yeah, that plus sign's all the way on the right side of the screen. That's
right.
not the
It's gonna be
most
missed.
visible.
It's
Yeah.
gonna be missed.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done that. But there was another point here. Not everything is set up exactly the same. Not all of them have video clips.
Mhm.
There was one, I just saw it and I can't remember it right now. Jesus, can't find the point. But one did lead to a PDF
Okay.
for more information. It said Brad's solution. It was a big button underneath. So some of them have a big button
Okay.
underneath the point. It says Brad's solution. You click on it and it gives you more information. And this was like a 3-page PDF on it. Um,
Okay.
where did I see that, for example?
See, a lot of what I'm looking at. Okay, here's a Brad solution. If you click on
Which
lead
one?
with public integrity,
Okay, yeah, there
it
we
looks
go.
vague. So it takes you to the first page is vague. It takes you to a second page, which also looks vague. It
Right.
says fight corruption, increase transparency, media accessibility. Okay, but what exactly do you want? Now you click on Brad's solution, and what do you get? You get a PDF. This is a 4-page PDF.
Right. With more
Stop,
information.
stop the corruption. Stop the corruption. It's got an introduction. It lays out the issue, and it says Brad's solution. But the solution, though, hold on.
I think
Okay.
there's a
Oh, there's
little
a lot
bit
here.
too
There is
much.
a lot here. There is a lot here. I see
There's a
it.
lot there, but I think there's a little bit too much work to get to it.
Get to it. Yep, you're right. You're right.
You
Why
know,
Brad?
because on that same page,
Yeah.
there is Brad's record, and that's hidden underneath the plus sign thing, like the other one. That's
Right.
like three things there, and then there's the Brad solution PDF, which has the 4 pages, which is good, but give us a little bit more of that on this main page, so you don't lose people trying to send them somewhere else.
Right. Right. And why provide this level of detail if you're going to bury it like 5 clicks into your website?
Right. Yeah. So, but he is giving extra detail in some of these.
On some areas, right?
Yeah,
Which is good.
which is
I
good.
still think not as much substance here as the others necessarily. Although maybe more than the now that I'm thinking of it,
Well, it could be like if you
maybe
go to
right on balance, right? Because the first website was the Zoran website, and he had kind of bold ideas, but he didn't have the level of detail that Cuomo did. Maybe Lander is somewhere in the middle here, in that
Right.
maybe his ideas are a little bit more ambitious in some cases than Cuomo's, and doesn't quite have the detail, but maybe he's got more detail than Zamdani does. Than
Right.
Mamdani
But he
does.
might have about similar to Cuomo. It's just it seems to
Yeah,
be
but there's not a Brad solution on every point here, right? It's only a few
not on
different.
every point,
Yeah,
but that's what I mean. It's kind of scattered, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
he's like, for example, if you go to protect workers' rights, as one of his points
Uh,
here, there is a Brad solution there, and that's an 11-page PDF.
okay.
So we're starting to, if we've got enough of these, we're going to hit that 100-page mark that Cuomo's doing as well. It's just scattered and
It's
not
more
as
scattered
up.
and harder to find, I guess.
You have to work for it a
You
little
gotta
bit
work,
more.
yeah, you got to work for his policy, and that's a problem for him, right? Maybe
Right.
it's a microcosm for his campaign. You have to work to find out where he really stands and who he is
Right.
in this
Right.
particular race, right? As far as him not getting lost amongst these other candidates, because you
Right.
have several candidates now, and you also have ranked choice voting. So voters are going to have the chance to vote for more than one person. They're going to pick up to five people in this
Right.
Democratic primary. So these candidates really need to be defining themselves and giving
Right.
voters a reason to even rank them on their ballot, right? Let's say you're going to be doing Cuomo or Zoran for one or two. What about three, four, and five? You know what I mean?
Right.
Why should I, as a voter, choose Lander over Stringer or Blake or any of these other candidates?